Okay. Welcome, everybody. I will call to order this regular monthly meeting of the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees. This is also our annual organizational meeting. And we will be holding our public hearing on our 2026-2027 village budget. Are there any changes to the full agenda of anyone on the board? Hearing none. We will begin our annual organizational meeting. For those who may not be familiar, if anyone sees this, New York State law requires an annual organizational meeting at what is our first meeting post election season, although we're still in our old fiscal year. There are a number of items. The first section will go over our mayoral appointments not subject to board approval. The second section is mayoral appointments which are subject to board approval. And then thirdly, we'll go over meeting dates, procedure, most of which is reiteration of what we've done in the past. So without further ado, mayoral appointments not subject to board approval. Ben Darfler, who is not with us tonight as he is traveling, will be deputy mayor. And let me just say thank you to Ben Carver for your 8 years as deputy mayor and availability during that time. Thank you. Thank you very much. The trustee commissions will remain the same. Joanna Haynes with police, Marcia Horn, fire, Ben Carver, EMS, Ben Darfler, DPW, water and sewer. Outside organizational liaisons remain the same. Myself as the representative to TCOG, myself as a representative to the Greater Tompkins County Municipal Health Insurance Consortium. Joanna as the representative to the Trumansburg Area Chamber of Commerce. Ben Darfler, our rep on the Cayuga Lake Watershed Intermunicipal Organization. Ben Carver as our representative to the Youth Commission, and both myself and Ben Carver as dual representatives of the Three Falls Local Development Corporation. Advisory chairs remain the same. Ben Darfler is the chair of the CPCR. Ben Carver is chair of the Street Tree Advisory Committee. And clerk treasurer Jessica Giles as the chair of the Events and Tourism Committee. Next, we have our slate of officers. These are my appointments subject to board approval. We have Jessica Giles as the village clerk treasurer, Jess Weber as our deputy clerk. New this year is a second deputy clerk position, into which this is a part-time position, into which I'm appointing Michelle Wright. Jess Weber is our deputy treasurer. Jessica Giles is our records management officer. Chief Nelson is our police records access officer. Jessica Giles is our budget officer. Jessica Giles, Jess Weber, and Michelle Wright are all authorized to receive taxes. Michael Bailey is our code enforcement and zoning officer. Michael Bailey is also our fire inspector. Guy Crow of Thaler and Thaler remains our village attorney. He would prefer I say attorney for the village. Village attorney is a different title. Tompkins Community Bank is our official bank and depository. The Ithaca Journal, Trumansburg Free Press, and Tompkins Weekly are all our official newspapers. Janice Broussard is our village historian. Michael Darfler remains on the Youth Commission, and we have an open vacancy if any village resident would like to represent the village on the Youth Commission. And David Allen is our village arborist. The planning board, Sarah Kennedy has graciously accepted reappointment for another term as her term was up this month. And on the ZBA, Tim Hamilton has again graciously accepted reappointment as the chair of the ZBA for another term. We have vacancies to alternate positions on both of those boards, should anyone be interested in planning and or zoning, excuse me, at the village level. Marriage officers are myself as mayor, Ben Darfler as deputy mayor. I left you on the list. I know how badly you want to do a wedding. I saw that someday. Touched. I've done one. Oh, did you do one? Yeah. One comment on our official bank and depository. I was reminded, although we've stated this in the past, that we are supposed to note whether there's a cap on the amount of money that can be deposited at the Tompkins Community Bank. I still call them the trust company. We have always had a no maximum, as they are our only bank. So with that, those appointments are all subject to board approval. I would entertain a motion to approve the slate of officers and other board appointments as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And it passes. Thank you, everyone. Regular meeting dates remain the second and fourth Mondays of each month unless canceled. We have our meeting rules, meeting order of agenda. The next page, page 4 of this packet, defines how minutes will be taken and kept. Order of business during our meetings. Acknowledgement of freedom of information law. Acknowledgement of advance approval of claims, mileage allowances, schools and conference attendance for village employees. Our procurement policy, which is unchanged from last year. And last but not least, our investment policy, which was initially adopted back in 2017 or 18, actually. It's been some time. The investment policy is fairly standard boilerplate as allowed by general municipal law. I think it's section 10. The only outside investments that the village has is with NICLAS, which is a municipal cooperative investment pool, which only invests in short-term interest-bearing instruments as allowed by general municipal law. And so I would entertain a motion to accept the rest of the policies and procedures of our organizational meeting as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Excellent. Thanks much, everyone. Which takes us to item number 4 on our agenda tonight, which is our public hearing as required by law on our 2026-2027 budget. We have, I'm gonna have to find the budget file, aren't I? Just
Oh. Can you find?
drag that in, that'll be a lot easier. While Jessica's doing that, we held, I think it was 4 or was it 5 budget meetings beginning in January. The budget has been published. Looking for a file. So for those who are keeping track at home. What we have been able to do since 2019 is keep our tax rate flat at $7.25 per 1,000. However, as everyone knows, assessments have increased substantially during that time. And so the experience, if you want to use that word, of the village property owner has been just shy of a 6% annual increase to their cost of paying village taxes. This coming budget cycle, beginning June 1, we've seen a very modest, a very small increase in assessment as Tompkins County has moved to a 3-year cycle of assessments, which will be nice for residents for 2 years and then very unpleasant in that 3rd year. But that's a function of, I think, just how the assessment office needs to manage its workload, among other things. So with that said, the village tax rate will be increasing for the first time since 2019 from $7.25 per 1,000 to $7.50 per 1,000. That equates to an approximately, rough numbers, an approximately 4% increase to the cost, if we want to use that word, to the village residents. So we're trying to keep the actual year-over-year increase to village residents manageable. Again, it was just shy of 6% these last many years. So it'll be a little less than that this go around. And so with all that said, switching screens, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing on our 2026-2027 village budget.
So moved. Or second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
And so we are now in our public hearing on the 2026-2027 village budget. If anyone present has any questions? Questions? We'll give it 30 seconds to see if anyone joins us online.
Same thing every year.
Why not?
Like the kids say, brah.
For the record, we are seeing, we have included 3% cost of living adjustments, raises for all village employees. Departmental costs remain relatively flat with the exception of EMS, which that budget is set in the fall. And police actually has seen a slight reduction in its departmental costs. Everything else is a function of, any other increases are a function of fringes, which include health insurance, state retirement, workers' comp insurance, FICA, Medicare, etc. And the village general fund budget, not including water and sewer, crosses $4 million for the first time. Water and sewer budgets remain flat in terms of fees. I think that was a little more than 30 seconds. So if there are no comments from our attendees, I would entertain a motion to close our public hearing on the 2026-2027 village budget.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And thus concludes the public hearing on the 26-27 budget. I would then move, or I would entertain a motion rather, to approve our 2026-2027 village budget as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions, discussion from the board?
I don't have anything to add. Sure. After several nights of talking this over.
Very good. Then all in favor of approving the 2026-2027 village budget as presented, please say Bless you, please say aye.
Aye.
That counts, Mark.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes. Thank you, everyone. Item number 5 is our first public comment period. Any members of the public present, anything they would like to discuss? Love it.
You can stand or take that out of the mic.
Okay, I'll just leave it here. All right, so at our last meeting, we passed a resolution directing administration to apply for a certificate of need for the county. Initially, this is going to be used for a grant that the Department of Emergency Response has applied for that will help cover the costs of adding paramedics to the RMR program. But the certificate of need, will then be there for us for the future, however we might need it. Let's see, we also voted on a motion to have a resolution at the next meeting to cancel our flock contract. Ithaca has already canceled their contract. Most of the cameras are going to be turned off. We took some time to make sure that it was not going to affect the GIVE grant that we received, including all the youth funding. And part of the resolution will be to direct the task force that applies for the GIVE grant to choose a different technology moving forward. So we haven't voted on that yet, but that's likely the direction we'll go. The study on a countywide minimum wage has begun. This is not a study about implementing the living wage. This is just looking at what would happen if the county had a different minimum wage than the rest of New York State. All the discussions about having the study were done before I got to the legislature. So I'm kind of just learning about it now, and that will be interesting to see what they say. Let's see. And about the assessment, I'll double check this. My impression was that we actually were just on a pause while the assessment office was implementing a new program. They're transitioning to a new, I forget what it is, but some major program where all the data is stored. And so they were going to take a pause in the yearly assessments, but I think we're going back to yearly assessments after that point, but I'll double check. You all know. So happy to answer any questions.
Was there much discussion? Is it because I didn't get a chance to watch the meeting? Was there much discussion on applying for the CON? Was it?
Not too much, actually. We talked about it just a little bit in the public safety meeting, and then we did make a modification or an amendment to the resolution that clarified that right now the intention is to just kind of add add the paramedics and add like a small amount to the RMR program. So if we wanted to come back and buy ambulances and do something like that, we would have to come back and vote on that as well. But we'll at least have the CON in place.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, there's no other public comment. Then we'll move on to our consent agenda. Item number 6, we have meeting minutes from our March 9th meeting, as well as our abstracts for the month, which include the general fund abstract, which totals $305,025.79. The water fund abstract totaling $33,900.10, and sewer fund totaling $30,165.38. So I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions, need to pull anything from the consent agenda? Hearing none. And all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Okay, board member reports. For myself, a couple of things. First, we've gotten in the habit of canceling our second meeting of the month. I want to make sure that there isn't a need for it this month. Is anyone aware of a need for a meeting on the 27th?
I don't have anything coming up.
Nothing here. Nope.
Did you see, I don't know, if was it from MRP?
That was about June.
Great.
All right, so let's notice the cancellation of our meeting on the 27th. And then two other items I'd like to acknowledge. Fire Chief Matt Taylor's term of service. He stepped down as chief effective the beginning of this month. That was planned succession. So Dan Shearer is now the fire chief for the Trumansburg Fire Department. I want to thank Matt for his years of service as a line officer and most recently as fire chief. And then I'd also like to acknowledge the retirement of Brian Snyder, who's a paramedic with our EMS department and former EMS manager. Was the department head for Trumansburg EMS from 2005 or 6 timeframe until 2018. So he was a longtime EMS manager. I thank Brian for his years of service to the department. He was instrumental in moving the department to full-time paid staff. Not necessarily by choice, but because we had to. And he was equally instrumental in moving Trumansburg EMS to billing in 2010 and 11 timeframe. So thank you, Brian, for your years of service to the village and to Trumansburg EMS for helping to make it what it is today. And with that, I will turn it over to Marcia for fire.
Well, as you mentioned, we are in transition of officers with a new chief, new lieutenants. And we had 38 calls for this month, and that's all I have. It was just basically a transition of personnel that was working within the department, people stepping down and people stepping up, so that's great.
Is Matt gonna, I mean, I assume he'll stay in the company?
Yes,
Like, Will
yeah,
stay in the
he's-
company? Is he
yeah.
gonna be a line officer or? is
Yeah,
he just-
no, he's just your average firefighter,
That must be-
with no
must feel the weight.
responsibilities.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Marshall, who is the deputy chief?
Jason Fulton.
And what about the turnout gear? Don't we need to ask for the spend on it?
Pushing that.
Yeah, we're gonna push it.
Oh, we are, okay,
Yes.
until June? Or not, just not right now?
Just not today.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, great.
EMS Youth Street Tree Advisory Committee, Beth.
So for EMS, all I have, actually for all of the above, all I have is the EMS call report. So I will run through that quickly. Covert 12, Hector 4, Interlaken 6, the City of Ithaca 3, Town of Ithaca 2, Lodi 3, Mecklenburg 9, Ovid 2, Romulus 2, Village 19, Ulysses 30, for a total of 92 calls for this year, or for this month, rather. And that is really all I have to report. I imagine, Roden, and this is a question that we'll discuss in executive session. Very good. So I have an executive session to talk about personnel matters, but other than that, I will leave the report there.
Okay. And just to add, at our May meeting, for anyone who's curious and listening, I will hopefully have information on both fire and EMS with respect to the long-awaited movement of facilities. Hopefully we'll have that for the May meeting. The plan is to have that for the May meeting.
And actually, I should quickly just reiterate what you said about Brian Snyder. Instrumental really is the word. The biggest full change in terms of the business model and the operating plan of an department. We managed 2 of them. I mean, it really, really is instrumental is the word. So just to reiterate that, thanks. You can't ask more from an employee than that. So, yeah.
Sure. Ben Darfler, as I mentioned earlier, is not here, but we do have under his report a change order. So you may recall there was some concern. There was some concern voiced at one point about potential Cargill expansion and what that might do in theory to the stability of the lake itself. We had engaged Moody to do some evaluation of the geology of the area. And it requires a slight change to the initial scope of services that they had initially quoted us. So the change is $3,000. That is technically within Ben and my ability to approve from the water department, but I wanted to just make sure the board was aware. And if there's any thoughts, comments, questions on it, give everyone a chance to weigh in before we approve it.
No, I think it's good to move forward. I mean, the safety of our water source feels pretty paramount. So
Agreed.
What concerns? So there was a concern voiced, so let's take a step back. For the last, 18 months, give or take? I don't actually know where it stands at the moment. I don't feel like it may have been approved. Cargill had applied to New York State for an expansion of their mining operations underneath Cayuga Lake. And there are various groups and interests that are opposed to that. And one of their concerns is that it could, they are concerned about the possibility of it affecting the stability of the lake with respect to water sources around the lake. The village of Trumansburg gets our water from the lake, technically from lakeshore wells, but it's still lake water. So we've engaged an engineering firm, really for our own information. We've engaged a third-party engineering firm unrelated to all the things going on with Cargill to do their own study to determine whether the operations of a Cargill could negatively impact our water sources. So that's what this approval would be, is to authorize them to do that study. If they come back and say there's really nothing to worry about, then that's great news. If they come back and say there's a lot to worry about, then we'll have to figure out what to do next.
No release on this report.
They are giving us.
I didn't see a timeline.
I don't think the
I did
timeline.
not see a timeline. I think we had discussed with them. I think we had talked to them about this summer. The rates are only good for 180 days. So my expectation is that we would have their report this summer, probably late summer, to be honest, but middle of 2026 is when I would, having worked with them in the past, that's my estimate, 3 to 4 months.
Has there been any problems that stirred up this concern or started up this report?
None. No, it was more, it more had to do with the efforts of certain groups to have the village formally oppose Cargill's expansion request due to the theory that it could affect our water sources. We have not had any issues, but rather than jump on board or rather than take any side on the issue, we first want to know whether there's any risk to our water sources.
And when will there be, as soon as this report is released, will there be a public hearing on it? So that people could
Yeah, it
hear about it?
wouldn't be a public hearing per se, but we would certainly discuss it at our board meeting. We publish the report on our website.
On our website.
Make it publicly available.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go ahead and approve that with Moody's. Back to board reports. Please, Joanna.
Police. I have nothing to report. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Let me get back to. I do have reports from Chief Nelson from last month and February and March. So I will first go through February calls. So for February, we had 246 calls total. There were no calls for service outside of the village of Trumansburg in February. As far as criminal investigations, there was one harassment, one domestic dispute, and one trespass investigation. And non-criminal investigations, 110 property checks, 43 traffic ticket issues, and 10 parking ticket or problems. And then 15 informational inquiries for background checks for pistol permits. Nothing eventful happened in February. And then in March, we had 318 calls. Again, no calls outside of the village. So for criminal investigation, one mental health welfare check, one larceny theft investigation, and one trespass investigation. Non-criminal investigations, we had 171 property checks, 92 traffic enforcements with 42 traffic tickets and 8 parking tickets. And then 25 inquiry background checks. As far as the police department and in talking to the chief, budget numbers are all good. Let me just get this real quick. We're gearing up to, we are looking at the hours for the crossing guard for the farmers market. I think it was suggested by the farmers market to have a crossing guard 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after. We're still talking about how beneficial it would be to have a crossing guard 30 minutes before the farmers market, because there's just not too much movement. It would be helpful to have someone after the farmers market is over, especially later on in the season when it gets darker. We're also, something that he did last year when we were looking at this, and that he's going to do this year, is putting cones as far as where the fire department is, to warn people that a stop is coming potentially, and to slow that traffic down. And then what else? So there were some repairs that needed to be done to the Dodge Durango, which cost $1,200, and then the Dodge Charger is currently in repair. So he's actually taken this Durango a few times to get work done on it. So we might be looking at potentially purchasing a new vehicle pretty soon. Um. Let's see. We are. We have been paying attention to the wages in our area, as, you know, whatever, Tompkins County ends up, whenever this report comes out, and we are also closely looking at that to match up just what our police force currently is paid. Just because it might actually be more difficult to hire more police department, or police officers in our area. And then we've been approached a few times by the school district on some changes around the middle school to relieve some congestion in that area. And also for safety reasons. So two things that we're looking at, and we're waiting for an additional email, is actually putting a no parking sign, or basically all in front of the middle school being no parking. So we are looking at options there, and that we'd have to change, just like we did last year for Union Street. It would require the same process. So we're looking to see what exactly we need in that area. It's mostly for during school time, so I think it would be beneficial to have no parking during the school time. I obviously have a middle schooler, so I completely understand what the issue is there. And actually enforcing it would be the other thing too, because as many times, even though earlier this season, I think we put barriers there, people continue to just stand right in front of the barrier to let their kid out in the middle of the street. So, you know, we'll see if that works out. I think the other question was perhaps decreasing the school zone on Wig Street, and then potentially Schoolhouse. And then maybe even South Street from Schoolhouse to Wig Street. And reducing that to 15 miles per hour so that people actually slow down. So that is something that Chief Nelson and I discussed today, actually. So I don't know what would be required to change the speed limit, but
I have a question about Schoolhouse. Is it true they're not allowing kids to walk down that road?
I have no idea.
I have been told that kids that are walking like from the development, instead of being able to just cross the road and go down Schoolhouse and go to school, they're not allowed to do that. They're redirecting them down South Street and down Wig Street to school.
School does not want kids walking down Schoolhouse.
I would say that that would be a
That's for the back
school.
way.
Because of the bus garage configuration.
Uh,
They are part of their capital project. So I had a meeting with the school last week. Part of their capital project is to revive the trail, which I didn't realize was school property.
the trail was school
The
property
trail has always been school property.
between the house and the.
I didn't realize
Really?
it was school property. So they want to build a walking trail like what's at Village Grove through the woods, hard packed lighting, cameras. They want to put that in there as an alternative for foot traffic, because they do not want kids walking down Schoolhouse, and they won't budge on it. They want no.
I thought it was just us kids that made that trail years
That's what I
ago.
thought.
Didn't you think so?
Well, we made the trail, but it was school property. We
Oh,
just didn't-
okay,
We
we
just didn't know.
it. We thought that people were just being nice in that house and letting us walk in their yard.
They probably hated it, didn't do anything.
My friend lived in that house, so I figured I was clear.
And yeah, so.
That would be great if they did that.
So that's part of the capital project map. And then we have the ability, so obviously Main Street is a state road, but we have the ability to lower speed limits on Wig down to a school zone speed. I don't know about, I guess schoolhouse is right there, so we could go from schoolhouse to Wig on South Street.
Well, we're the historical society that is also school property, so we are able to decrease.
Okay.
Yeah,
So this,
so Chief Nelson said, we can decrease up to basically a quarter of a mile, so 1,320 feet from school property out.
so that would cover schoolhouse to Wig on South, it would cover all of Wig from that middle school entrance, and we could do Truman too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
True. So I did ask about Truman. The one thing that Chief Nelson said was we could do it, but it wouldn't really change anything because the street is so short. You wouldn't even be able to get up to the 25 mile per hour.
Yeah, that's true.
But Wig gets a little sketchy.
Yes,
People are,
yes.
so that would be a local law, amender speed limits. So we won't get it until the end of the school year, but we can ready to go for.
Your next school year. Okay. Yep, let's see what else. So we did continue to talk about Flock and our contract. Our contract is actually not. So we have a 3-year contract. We approved it August 2024. And then at 2 years, we have to decide whether or not we're going to re-up that contract. Which will be this August is when we need to let Flock know whether or not we're gonna renew that. At this point, we've been Chief Nelson and I have been talking, and it's not really to our benefit to continue with that contract. For one, we don't know when the next tech grant is gonna be. That purchase was completely on tech grant money. So we wouldn't have the additional $30,000 to pay for it. The other thing is that we've benefited very little from the use of that. Even though we have all of this data stored, I think we've used it twice in the 2 years that we've had it. And then the other thing is that if other places are pulling out, we don't benefit from that either. We won't have any data from the sheriff's office for Tompkins County or Ithaca to help us with any type of investigation. So it would just be going back to how it was done before, which is phone calls and emails. I have said this before, I have no feelings either way on this matter. It's just, we heard last month of people's concerns. To an extent, I agree with that, but at the same time, I think we've done our due diligence. One of the things that I did after that meeting is actually go back to Flock. I went back 5-6 years of working at the bank. I actually did security vendor management. So I went back to those skills and I asked for the information. I asked for, all of their policies, procedures, their stock reports, anything that you would actually ask for from a vendor. And they provided it all and it's all written down. So, I understand people's concerns. At the same time, we also did our due diligence on this software. I will say that technology will continue to be an issue. we do need safeguards and we do need, people that are actually gonna do the right thing. We tried to do the right thing, with the technology that we purchased. Other people are using it, to their own advantages and to disadvantage other groups. And so that's hurting us because we can't use that technology, for our own benefit.
Doesn't seem like the justification of the price to up it is worth it if we've only used it twice in 2 years.
Yeah.
That's it, that's insignificant for the cost, so I don't see why we would need to renew it. That's just
Right.
fiscally, it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. I think the next question is gonna be whether or not, which is still open, is to keep it on for the year that we have left on the contract. Even if we do keep it on, that information still does go to New York State. Because it was on the technology grant, they have access to it as well. But that information does not, so from my research, the data that we collect only goes to those other other offices that we have approved. So we only approved that New York State Law Office or whatever it's called, the data center. But none of our data goes on to any other police department that they are also connected with. If that makes sense. If we turn it off, then no data is collected. Chief Nelson said that it does take a lot of work to even use it as an investigative tool, so it's still work. And that's pretty much all I have. I don't think we formally need to cancel a contract. That was just the only thing that we do is really approve the spending, right?
Right, we would need to approve a renewal.
Right.
So if
Right.
we're not gonna renew, then there's nothing to do, let it expire. My personal opinion at the moment is if chief is recommending that we don't renew, then we don't renew, and I would, for the time being anyway, leave it up to chief how he utilizes it. Like we would leave it up to him with any piece of equipment in the police department. If he decides it's not even, if he decides it never gets used and he wants to turn them off, if the county turns them off. Because there's no, if it becomes, it's a weak analogy, but if it becomes like a computer that can't run the software we need anymore and it just wants to turn it off, I don't know. I don't think that needs to be a board decision.
Yeah.
The only reason this board would be involved is, if he did it, which he's not, but if he was in favor of renewing the contract, we'd have to approve it and decide where we're getting the money from.
Yeah.
At this point, I think we generally don't override our department heads when they say they do or don't do something, so kind of leave it as discretion.
Yeah.
It's probably the best.
Yeah. And he's already indicated too that once this grant becomes available and we're able to apply for it, that there are other uses. So which I think I just saw, I don't remember what town or village it was that actually did purchase an electric vehicle on that grant money. So that is most likely a better use. And
Yeah, those hybrid Tahoes are not cheap, so.
Oh my
so
God.
He wants one, then.
We're gonna need a couple grants.
and that's pretty much all I had.
Okay. The clerk treasurer's office.
So, before we talk about budget modification requests, I just wanted to bring it up to speed that we're sort of coming up on, high event season in the village. So anyone who isn't subscribed to the Village Weekly e-newsletter, may want to go ahead and do that by going to the homepage of the village website, trimsburg-ny.gov. At the very bottom on the right, like in the field, you can subscribe. And I just wanted to highlight that there'll be the first ever Trimsburg Little League opening day parade. I will make a news post of when Route 96 will be very temporarily closed on April 25th. For softball and baseball to parade from the farmers market to Truman Street, and then there's games and things happening. We're coming up on the May 5K race, so the sign up for that is available. That's not until help me out. You can register by
The 15th, I think, of April.
the 15th of April. Maybe it's Saturday the 30th
Yeah.
of May May.
Yeah.
It's the 30th of May, but it's time to be signing up. If you're interested in that, you can also Google that and find it. The village yard sale, which has been mentioned, is May 9th, and there's a new death place. There's also a Earth Day cleanup that'll be May 2nd. So all of this sounds very far away, but it isn't if you're planning 2 weeks out on your social calendar. So again, the newsletter is a good chance to look at that. Also, the Philadelphia Library, the Ulysses Library is having a book sale right now. So that's my events and tourism plug. Porch Fest feels like it's tomorrow. That's not until June, but I think that's a good way to stay advised of that. And then Vernon, I don't know if you want to maybe lead the discussion on the budget modifications. There's a document in the Dropbox. So it, as we all know, and for anyone listening, the budget has to be balanced, the municipal balance, a budget has to be balanced, and sometimes funds aren't spent in one line. They need to be, there could be a modification requested by the treasurer to say, can we shift that sum to balance out the budget? So I presented a slate of modifications for the 24-25 tax year.
Yes, we do this every year. We used to be done by formal audit. Now our auditors work more in the capacity of CPA for us. So the May 31st, 2025 budget year closure, towards the end of 25, December-ish timeframe, those books were reviewed. And the accountant has a list of budget modifications that need to be done to bring that year's budget into balance. Some lines underspent, some lines overspent, some fund balance used, etc. Generally improve this every year as required. So I would entertain a motion to approve the slate of budget modifications as presented to us by the treasurer and our CPA firm, if someone would like to move that.
So
Second.
Comments or questions?
what's the EMS ambulance lease?
Excuse me?
EMS ambulance lease?
That is, so sort of recognize the fact that it is, so how the CPA wants to record it.
Yeah,
To make it make sense, because it's kind of an asset, you still sort of, you're paying on a thing, but you're also, it's an asset. So if you want a more detailed answer than that, I can ask Dwayne for more wording around that, but that was his suggestion. On how to increase that, to make that, to offset the expensive versus realized as part of the asset.
yeah, could you ask if that is curious to me? I mean,
You would
not
like more,
great.
just more explanation.
Yeah, yeah,
of what
just kind of
it is.
what
Yep,
that
I can
means.
do that.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Hey, hearing none then, all in favor of accepting these budget modifications as presented to us, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Anything else?
Just that this now will complete that review, the CPA review, and so I expect that if we would want, or you could present that in May, or do you want a formal presentation of findings? Does this board want that? Or do you just want to see the report?
Let's just see the report for now.
Okay, and then call
We
them.
don't need to schedule it unless
Okay.
questions.
Great. I will forward that to everyone when it comes. I think that's it. Water bills will come. Yeah, I was February. I think that's the tax season, so do be, I should make a plug for that. I put it out in the newsletter and on printed on water bill. Water sewer accounts, with an outstanding balance greater than $250, which does mean $250.02, will be re-levied onto property taxes. If you haven't, if it's outstanding by April 30th, so pay your water bill or it goes onto your taxes. Which just means then, should you not pay your property tax online, then the penalty for that would include the value of your water. Makes sense. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Item number 8 is old business. Do we have any items of old business? Include. Item number 9 is new business. The only item is Supervisor Olson. As we've all been trying to decide if there's anything we want to do around America's 250th birthday. The Encore Players are doing a play. They're calling it a 1776 event. The town is considering, you don't use the word donation. The town is considering a expenditure of $1,000 to the Encore Players in an effort to provide reduced cost tickets for those who might need it. And she wanted to know if the village was interested in doing the same. If we did, we would do it through the ETC budget. Or we can come up with some other way to do something for America's birthday, or we could just do this in collaboration with the town and call it good. I thought it was kind of a cute idea.
I think it's great. I'm all for it. That's great. I mean, I don't think it needs to necessarily be the end of our discussions about what, right? There's obviously something more, but I agree that it's a fun.
I think it should, yeah.
What's in the ETC budget line?
Yeah, so
That's my next question.
that's,
This will be the new budget year.
yeah. It's then we reduced it from last year, and we're hoping to refresh the front office sign, the village sign.
Yeah.
Needs to be painted and the thing, so that was that, and let me take a peek because we're also going to get banners. I think that I'm a little hesitant in the moment because we didn't have any, there wasn't an extra project that, oh, we could put off, but let me look at this. It also depends on how much. There's 5,000 in that budget, which really arguably is only 2,000 after Porch Fest.
Yeah. I mean, we're a little late to be ordering banners for the summer.
Sort of aren't, but if we could put it off if you didn't want to have banners for the summer.
Yeah.
It's not committed, you're absolutely right that it hasn't been committed, but the turnaround time on that, we have a design that I expect to be presented to you in May. It's using the waterfall from 150. But yeah, if this board doesn't want to have seasonal banners this year, that would be the.
You also haven't used like trustee contractual several years. I feel like this could be, I mean, it's maybe a bit of a stretch, but.
Do you want me to do some more exploration?
How much is the town donating?
1,000.
1,000.
We could pay for our own tickets at $200.
No, we just next year, this time, we'd be doing a budget mod to move 1,000 from trustee contractual to ETC.
One consideration I have from the ETC standpoint is that the Encore's Player event is one event in many things versus something more publicly visible for a longer period of time, though maybe not. They have postering up. It's just something for the board to consider as I'm thinking about banners.
We could do both. It's only $1,000. You do banners and
I would say both.
I would too.
I wouldn't want to cut the ETC budget is it's fairly small and I think fairly effectively. Use.
And I think at this point, Encore players are pretty well known and people really look forward to, you know, whatever they have to present in the summer, so. And their, whatever play they have. Um, Yeah, in March or whatever.
All right, well, unless there's any objection, I'll just let Caitlin know that. We're going to do it if they do it.
Yeah. They're also looking for very strong singers, if anybody is interested in
Volunteer
participating.
my 4-year-old.
There you go.
We'll nail
Strong singers, does that imply
it. Like,
good, like, or is that imply on key? Or just loud? Are there any other items of new business? Takes us to our second public comment period. Anything else? Rachel? I would then entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss EMS personnel. Don't move.